Hi everyone, it's Celeste Kelly with iShine. I am so grateful that you are here joining us today for video number 2 in our video series about authentic communication. If you missed the first video, I encourage you to go back and take a look at that as I talk about some foundational pieces for having authentic conversations with your child in that. And in today's video, video number 2, I'm going to talk about how you can be a clear communicator, how we as moms can communicate clearly with our children. And this will bring more ease and more understanding in your relationships. And I'm going to share 3 tips today on how you can do that. So first, I'd like to back it up just a little bit to tell you why communicating clearly is so important to me. It's really near and dear to my heart because I have a 13-year-old daughter and we have a great relationship. However, several years ago, I noticed that she and I were really butting heads a lot in our conversations and our expectations, and we were having misunderstandings, and it was happening more often than I was comfortable with. And as a conscious mom, I know you can relate if something happens and you're noticing a pattern that you don't like or that you want to shift. I started doing what us conscious moms do. I researched and I talked to people and I took different programs and I tried all different kinds of things. But ultimately, what has worked best, or one of the most effective tools, I'll say it that way, that my daughter and I have utilized has been authentic communication, really heart-based communication. And it has helped us deepen our relationship, to be really clear with each other and to have empathy for each other and really have a deep connection for each other. And the truth is that once you learn how to do this, you can enjoy this conversation and use it not only with your child or your children, your daughter, your son, you can use it with other family members, you can use it at work, you can use it in your communities. It's really very powerful. So let's dive in. So the first tip is, when you're in a conversation, to notice what you're feeling. Okay? As we talked about in the first video, so much of the time we are busy and our minds are other places. We're thinking about our to-do list, or we're rushing out the door, or we're thinking about what has to be done before we go to bed that night. We may be thinking about a work deadline when our child is trying to talk to us or somebody else trying to talk to us. And so we may not notice what we're actually feeling. And oftentimes, at least sometimes with our children, we can be so engrossed in what our child is feeling and experiencing that we're having empathy for them, but we're not really noticing what's going on in our own body, what we're feeling. So that's the first tip, is to stop and notice what you're feeling. And don't judge it, right? There's no right or wrong. It's a mindfulness. It's a noticing what you're feeling. It's being the observer, okay? And why this is important is because if you notice what you're feeling and you're feeling something that doesn't feel good to you, if you're feeling frustrated or sad or angry or a heavy emotion, that's your key to pause for a minute and shift the conversation, because you can do that, all right? So notice your feelings and observe them. And that takes practice. It sounds easy, it sounds simple, but the truth is that a lot of times we don't do that. So start practicing that, to notice what you're feeling in a conversation. So the second tip is to know what you need, okay? And that sounds easier than it actually is. Because again, as moms, we're busy, and oftentimes we're so busy taking care of everybody else and everyone else's needs that we have lost touch with what our own needs are. And the truth is that if our own needs are not being met, and that goes on for too long, it is likely to cause us to feel frustrated or anxious or overwhelmed or sad or resentful, disconnected, all kinds of things. So it's very important to know what you need. And some common needs, just to give you some examples, would be a need for connection, or a need for peace, a need for ease, a need for clarity and understanding, Maybe you have a need to be seen or a need to be heard, or perhaps you have a need for safety in conversations, or a need for ease, or maybe you have a need for rest. There are lots of needs that we have as human beings, and certainly as moms and as parents. So getting in touch with that in a conversation, when things are coming up, noticing what you're feeling, and then getting underneath that and noticing what you're feeling can be a very powerful combination. So what if you don't know what you need? What do you do? That's a great question. And the truth is that somewhere within you, your wise woman does know what you need. And there are ways to access that, your divine feminine wisdom. There are certain steps and things that you can do, very specific things that you can do. And I don't have time to go into all of those today. That is kind of its whole own juicy topic. It could be its own workshop or multiple workshops on that. But one place that you can start is to, if you're not sure what you're needing, is to just take 3 deep breaths in, okay? And really just kind of clear your mind, take 3 deep breaths in, and just ask yourself, what am I needing in this moment, okay? And that is, again, it's a practice, but the more you do it, the easier it will become, and the quicker it will happen for you. Okay, so now the third step is where we really put all this together. So we've noticed in a conversation what we're feeling. We've done our best to identify what we're needing. And even if you're not 100% positive that that's what you're needing, yes, give it your best shot. Okay, so you've identified what you're feeling, what you're needing, and the third tip, or the third step, is to express that to your child, to express to your child what you're feeling and what you're needing. Okay, this, and why is this important? Because this gives your child the opportunity to understand where you're coming from, rather than, your kids are so wrapped up in their own world that oftentimes we ask them things or make requests or in a conversation, they're only thinking about it from their own perspective. So by telling them, by sharing with them what you're feeling and what you're needing, it allows them to develop understanding and empathy for you. And you can do the same for them. So how about we put this into some real world examples so you can see what this looks like. Okay, so let's take the example of a mom who is tired. She's had a long day, and it's she's asked her daughter 2 times already to clean up the dishes. And her daughter said, yeah. And so the mom has to go in a 3rd time and ask her to clean the dishes. Now this mom is tired. She's worked all day. She still has a bunch to get done before bedtime. So she might walk into the kitchen and say to her daughter, look, this is the 3rd time I've had to ask you, will you clean the dishes? I'm tired. I'm ready to go to bed, and I still have to do X, Y, Z. And why do I always have to ask you a million times to do something, right? The mom could go rambling off into a story. And there's also another choice. The other choice would be for the mom to stop, and before she starts talking to her daughter about the 3rd request, she can tune into what she's feeling. Like, okay, my daughter hasn't washed the dishes. This is the 3rd time I have to ask her. Really tune into what she's feeling and what she's needing, and then approach her daughter and say something like, hey honey, I am feeling really frustrated because this is the 3rd time I've had to ask you to clean the dishes. I am really needing some cooperation and some teamwork right now. Could you please get the dishes done? Okay? Do you see the difference? It's much more empowering to be able to have a dialogue with our children. And it doesn't always mean they're going to understand where we're coming from, but it at least gives it a chance. Right? It's more empowering to them than when we're just fussing at them, which we're all human beings. We're doing the best that we can. There's times that we fuss at our kids. It's just the way that it goes. However, if we are noticing what we're feeling and what we're needing, it opens the door for us to have these really authentic communications with our children, to say, here's what I'm feeling, here's what I'm needing. Can you meet this request? Can you help me out? Can you agree to this? Can we move forward? Okay, it opens up that dialogue. and it really strengthens relationships. So here's one other quick example of how this might work. Say your daughter comes home from school and there's been a bullying incident, and she's very upset and she's really emotional, and you know, she's crying and really talking a lot and wound up. Now, the mom in that case might easily get sort of sucked into the drama and the emotions of it, or she could listen to her daughter and then stop and notice what she's feeling and needing. And maybe she would say something like this to her daughter: "Honey, I have so much compassion and empathy for you. It sounds like you had a really rough day. And I want to thank you for telling me about it. And it's really important to me that I understand exactly what happened to you, your experience. So I'm confused. I'm kind of confused about exactly what happened. And I'm looking for clarity. I need some clarity. So would it be okay if I repeated back to you what I think happened so that I can make sure I'm understanding you?" And that gives the daughter the opportunity to say, "Yeah, Mom, that's it. That's what happened." Or it gives the daughter the opportunity to say, "No, you're missing the point. This is really why I'm upset." And then once the mom has that clarity, she can move forward in knowing how to best support her child. Okay. So what I like about this, and our 3 steps or the 3 tips, the noticing what you're feeling in a conversation, tuning into what you're needing, and then expressing that to your child, is that it gives you a framework for conversations. When things get amped up in a conversation, or you find yourself feeling upset or some heavy emotions coming in, once you notice that, you can stop and use this framework. Well, what am I feeling? What am I needing? Expressing that to your child. And that really opens the door for better understanding and more connection. And then the next piece is to be able to teach your child how to do the same thing. Okay, and we're going to cover that in video 3, which is the next video. So I hope that you'll tune into that. And I hope that you found this video helpful to your daily communications with your child. And also know that this is not, you're not going to use this in every single conversation that you have. However, it can be very helpful in some of the conversations that you have. And I also want to make a disclaimer. This is not a magic bullet. I'm not saying it's going to solve every problem or prevent every problem that you have from happening with your child, or every misunderstanding, but it does give you a much better chance of having a much clearer way for you to communicate with each other and listen to what's going on for each other, and being able to meet each other's needs and find some common ground, so you can move forward in a way that is loving, right, and respectful to both you and your child. So that's it for today. I hope that you'll join us for video 3. And also, if you know that you need some more help, if you want some more help with learning how to communicate authentically and really shifting your skill set and upgrading that on how to communicate well with your child and authentically and compassionately, then I'd be happy to do some coaching with you. And we've provided a link for that below. And that's it for today, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks, everybody. Bye.